Ray Fisher spoke upon the possibility of returning as Cyborg, but he has some conditions that need to be met. Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. First, we're going to talk about that Catwoman Hunted animated movie that Grace Randolph hinted at. Then we're going to talk about a possible Black Canary project. The new things were revealed for Matt Reeves The Batman. James Gunn finally reveals if his Suicide Squad is in the DCEU or out of the DCEU, and what does that actually mean? And finally, Ray Fisher's condition on whether he returns as Cyborg or not. Let's talk about Catwoman Hunted. So this was like an exclusive from Grace Randolph. She talked about how there was going to be an animated movie about Catwoman. And she even mentions thanking Zoe Kravitz about it. It looks like it's not about Zoe Kravitz or even a spin-off of Matt Reeves The Batman. And maybe we kind of took her tweet as saying that it was going to be part of Matt Reeves The Batman because she put Zoe Kravitz in there. But she was right about Catwoman Hunted, and it is indeed an animated movie. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Catwoman is going from hunter to hunted in a new animated film. Hunted, which is produced in an anime style, picks up with Catwoman as she attempts to steal a priceless jewel. The heist puts her squarely in the crosshairs of both a powerful consortium of villains and the ever-resourceful Interpol, as well as Batwoman. Catwoman is voiced by Elizabeth Gillies, and Batwoman is voiced by Stephanie Beatriz. But not only those two, there's a huge cast of actors and actresses voice acting these roles, and it's pretty extensive. So you can pretty much chalk this up to being another DCEU, if you will, and it's going to expand that universe. Catwoman Hunted is expected to be out early 2022. Alright, let's talk about the potential Black Canary project. So this came from an interesting place article that came out today, coming from W Magazine. Best in Shows, Jurnee Smollett breaks bad. The Emmy-nominated actress talks moving on and letting go of Lovecraft Country. One paragraph in this whole article really got people's attention. This is what it said. Soon she'll appear in the Netflix series Lou, and there's been talk of a potential spin-off of Birds of Prey, the DC Comics movie, starring Smollett as Black Canary, whose vocal prowess is her superpower. And that is it. That's all we got. It doesn't even tell you what that is, other than it's a spin-off from Birds of Prey. It's gonna star Black Canary, so you're automatically thinking, okay, I think this is a Black Canary HBO Max series that people were talking about. There were rumors all about that being in development, or at least, in conversation. In fact, when someone asked W Magazine if this is true, they kind of went, hush, hush. But not only that, Daniel Rickman also revealed that it is indeed in development, an HBO Max original Black Canary. Oh my god, is it really happening? So fans of Birds of Prey should rejoice today because their favorite Jurnee Smollett is gonna reprise her role as Black Canary in her own series. Yes, the Lovecraft Country didn't work out, sadly, because I love that series and I wanted to see more out of it. And even though I don't think this is the reason why Lovecraft Country is gone, but at least Jurnee Smollett will continue on getting a big role, finally returning as Black Canary. Alright, let's talk about the Batman. Matt Reeves The Batman is coming out next year, and everybody's pretty excited to see this version of Batman. It's supposed to be a very dark version. In fact, a lot of the conversation about Matt Reeves The Batman was that it could possibly be rated R. But because of some recent reveals, I think the perception that Matt Reeves The Batman is actually going to be rated maybe PG-13 instead of rated R. The reason is this junior novel that is coming out. Warner Bros. The Batman releases in theaters March 4th, 2022, bringing with it all the adventure and action of one of the most popular superheroes in the world. We all know that billionaire Bruce Wayne is secretly Gotham City's vigilante detective and protector, the Batman. But what road led him there? Find out in the Batman the Deluxe Junior Novel Special Edition, which includes the exciting prequel story of Bruce Wayne's early adventures on his way to becoming the Batman, as well as how those events come to an exciting conclusion in the new action-packed feature film, starring Robert Pattinson as Batman and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Not only is there a junior novel, there's actually some toys that are coming out, action figures for kids. Now, I don't know if this automatically says that this is going to be a PG-13 movie, but I guess history tells us that when they start making toys in junior novels, it's because kids can potentially go and watch the Batman and go get these books and toys. So that's when fans are getting the perception that this movie is actually going to be PG-13. Now, it hasn't been rated yet. No one has come out with that at all. I guess rated R movies don't have junior novels and toys that are for kids. I don't know, did James Gunn, The Suicide Squad, have a junior novel and toys for kids? I can't remember. But not only that, the Batman also had this collection of graphic novels that inspired the movie, including The Long Halloween, Year One, Ego, and other stories. Alright, James Gunn talked a little bit about the Suicide Squad. Now, for a long time, Peter Safran and even Toby Emmerich was kind of bouncing around the idea that this is going to be a reboot. Oh, no, this is going to be a kind of like sequel. This is not a sequel or a reboot. I mean, they couldn't make up their minds. It's like one side of them is like they're really trying to get away from David Ayer's Suicide Squad, and the other one's like, well, we kind of want to include a little bit of that because, well, the characters are from David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Plus, the name in itself, The Suicide Squad, like, why? Like, the first one was called Suicide Squad, and all you did was stick the in front of it, which makes it feel like it's a reboot, but then you got the same characters from the first one. It just doesn't make sense. But this is what James Gunn says where his Suicide Squad takes place. It is the DCEU. So it's whatever the DCEU is today with Aquaman and the Flash and everything else. That's where the Suicide Squad is. So to me, that seems like he's saying, okay, it is within the canon of the current DCEU, meaning this does take place after like Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad. It takes place within the world of Aquaman, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, all that. Those all exist within the same continuity. Then why was the effort to try to get it out of that when you're literally living in it? And some people can argue that maybe he's saying that now because the producers are trying to say, hey, look, this is not a reboot or anything. Yeah, it's part of that, it's gonna work out. I enjoyed James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and I actually do believe they should have just called it Suicide Squad 2. That would have shown some continuity, the effort that the brand is still strong, the DCEU is continuing. All this talk about reboot actually kills the brand, if you know, and because you wanted to build on a foundation and you want to make sure that they know that there is a foundation to build on and you're not just rebooting movies left and right. It should have been called Suicide Squad 2. I'm sorry, it really should have, and maybe it would have done better at the box office. Let's talk about Ray Fisher. Now, Ray Fisher has been battling Warner Brothers since Justice League the Snyder Cut was announced. In fact, he frequently calls out Toby Emmerich, Walter Hamada, Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon, though I noticed he stopped calling out John Berg because, John Berg actually apologized to him, and that was all out in some extensive interview. I think it was The Hollywood Reporter. But fans absolutely love him as Cyborg in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It was really cool. We really want to see him continue playing Cyborg. And he was in The Flash, but he came out and tweeted that he did not want to work with Walter Hamada or any production that involved Walter Hamada. And so Warner Brothers decided to let him go, even though he didn't actually say he quit. But they took that tweet as him quitting. Still, fans still want to see him as Cyborg. So when he was over at MegaCon in Orlando, they asked him the question if he's going to come back as Cyborg. And I assume the question was about The Flash. This is what he had to say.
That's a complicated question. I think ultimately, how people spend their money determines what happens and what does not happen in this business, and particularly in comic books and in DC and all of that. For me, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Obviously, I've not been shy, about talking about all the things that have occurred over the last year, and the back and forth that I've had personally and publicly with Warner Brothers Pictures, Walter Hamada, and the rest of the crew over there. For me, I think it all starts with an apology coming from the Warner Brothers side of things. There's a lot of just really gnarly stuff that has gone down. Especially publicly, what Walter Hamada and Warner Brothers Pictures attempted to do professionally and personally during one of the most crucial years for Black people in the history of really humanity is just unacceptable. So until such time where an apology is issued, I probably won't be supporting any Walter Hamada production, period. Not even probably, I definitely will not be supporting any Walter Hamada production, period. And it's a tough thing because I'm a DC fan through and through. I love these characters. But sometimes, you gotta give up what you love to do what's right. And so I'm gonna keep doing it. And I appreciate I appreciate you thinking about me.
So it does seem like he's willing to work it out with Warner Brothers as long as they extend a branch out to him and actually apologize. Knowing Warner Brothers, they probably won't do that. So for the time being, I don't think there is any way Ray Fisher will return as Cyborg. But wait a minute, Walter Hamada's contract is, going to dry up soon, about maybe a year or two. Which came the question of whether the Warner Discovery merger will have an effect on Ray Fisher's decision. I can't really speak on that, and I don't really know too much the inner workings of corporate mergers, but you never know. I mean, they said the Snyder Cut didn't exist. They said it was impossible. They said it for years and years, so, give it time and appetite for it. If people want to, eventually, I think it's possible. So I think he was referring to Restore the Snyderverse with that answer. And I believe so as well. With the corporate mergers, just like how AT&T and Warner Brothers had that little thing going on, out came the Snyder Cut. So who's to say that Warner Discovery merger could definitely spit out a Snyderverse? I don't know. It could happen. But more importantly, it seems like a corporate merger could upend some executives and force hands over at Warner Brothers. And I said could. We're not exactly sure what David Zaslav actually thinks about the Snyderverse or even thinks about Ray Fisher and his situation. So there is indeed a possibility that a conversation could be had when the Warner Discovery merger is complete. And hopefully, crossing our fingers, maybe by then things will work out and Ray Fisher can come back as Cyborg.